CeeDee Lamb just said something that should fire up every single Cowboys fan. And before we break it all down, hit that subscribe button right now because we cover Cowboys news the second it drops. And you already know this offseason is not slowing down anytime soon. And what CeeDee revealed in this latest sit down might seem casual on the surface, but if you're really listening, if you're really reading between the lines, there's a whole lot more there about Dak Prescott, about the locker room, about expectations in Dallas, and about where this team is mentally heading into next season. And trust me, some of it should have you excited and some of it should have you thinking. So CeeDee was doing an interview during Super Bowl week, laid back, iced out, relaxed. But once the football questions started rolling, you could tell he wasn't there just to smile for the cameras. He was there representing the star. And the first thing that stood out to me was how he talked about wearing number 88 for the Dallas Cowboys. And we all know what that number means, from Drew Pearson to Michael Irvin to Dez Bryant. That jersey carries weight in this organization. And CeeDee admitted it took him about a year and a half to fully understand how heavy that legacy really is, and that right there tells you something about growth, because early on he was just a young star trying to make plays, but now he understands he's part of history, he's part of a lineage, and when he says that number pushed him to dominate even more, that's not just talk, that's mindset, and you've seen it translate on Sundays. But here's where it gets interesting, because when he started talking about Dak Prescott, you could hear genuine respect in his voice, and not the media-trained generic, he's a great quarterback type answer. I'm talking about detailed praise, about preparation, about off-season work, about how Dak makes sure he's available for his guys, and that matters, especially with all the outside noise that constantly surrounds Dak in Dallas. CeeDee basically said it doesn't surprise him when Dak goes out there and dominates because he sees the grind behind the scenes, and that's something fans don't always get to see. We see the interceptions, we see the playoff exits, we see the headlines, but inside that building, according to his number one receiver, Dak is putting in elite level work, and when CeeDee calls him underrated, that's a statement, because in a league where guys like Patrick Mahomes get rightfully praised, CeeDee is looking at his own quarterback and saying, don't forget what this man brings to the table. And here's the crazy part: when your franchise receiver publicly backs your quarterback like that, it tells you the locker room isn't fractured the way social media tries to make it seem. It tells you there's belief inside those walls, and belief is everything in this league. Now let's talk about something that really caught my attention, his comments about George Pickens, because if you've been following the rumors swirling around Dallas about potentially adding another explosive weapon, that name keeps popping up in speculation, and CeeDee didn't speak in hypotheticals. He spoke with admiration about Pickens' talent, about his edge, about how having another guy on the outside changes everything, and while nothing is confirmed, and right now it's all just talk floating around from different reports and fan debates, you can tell CeeDee understands what a true WR2 with attitude and playmaking ability would do for this offense. It creates more one-on-ones. It keeps defenses honest. It forces safeties to choose, and when that happens, number 88 eats. Would you make that move if you're Dallas? Would you spend the capital to bring in another big-time receiver? Because from a cap standpoint, that's not simple. Dak's contract is massive. CeeDee got paid. Micah Parsons is going to command elite money soon, so every addition has ripple effects. But if the front office believes this roster is close, adding another weapon could be the difference between a divisional round exit and something much bigger. And speaking of elite talent, CeeDee also named some corners he respects, guys like Patrick Surtain II, Derek Stingley Jr., Trent McDuffie, and Jalen Johnson, and I love that he answered that confidently. No hesitation, no ego, just straight up acknowledging top competition, and that's the type of mentality you want from your star receiver, because iron sharpens iron, and if he's studying the best, if he's measuring himself against the best, that means he's chasing greatness, not comfort. But let's not ignore what he said about expectations for next season, because this is where it hit different. He said the goal is simple: just win. He doesn't care what it looks like. He doesn't care about style points. He doesn't care about narratives. Just find a way to get it done. And Cowboys Nation, that right there is the energy this team has to carry into 2026, because we are past the point of moral victories. We are past the point of close but not quite. This fan base is starving for postseason success, and the players know it. When CeeDee talks about mental toughness, about blocking out distractions that come with playing for the biggest brand in football, he's not exaggerating. The Dallas Cowboys are under a microscope 24/7. Every practice clip becomes a debate. Every comment becomes a headline. And yet inside that chaos, you have to perform. And that's why hearing him talk about staying neutral, staying focused, that's leadership language. And whether he wears a captain's patch or not, he's clearly stepping into that role vocally. Now let's pivot to something that doesn't get enough love, Brandon Aubrey because CeeDee brought him up and called him automatic, and think about how important that is for this team moving forward in tight playoff games, in December matchups, in cold weather battles, having a kicker you trust from 55 plus changes play calling. It changes how aggressive you can be on third down. It changes field position strategy, and that's the kind of hidden edge contenders have. And if Dallas is serious about making a deep run, special teams consistency has to remain a strength. But here's what nobody's talking about. When CeeDee smiles and jokes during interviews, it's easy to overlook how calculated he actually is. He understands the spotlight, he understands branding, but he also understands legacy. And when he says he talks with former 88s every offseason, that tells you he's not just collecting stats, he's chasing something bigger. He wants to be remembered, and that hunger is what separates Pro Bowlers from legends. The big question now is, what does the front office do to match that hunger? Do they double down on offense and give Dak and CeeDee more firepower? Do they invest heavily in the trenches to finally control playoff games physically? Do they restructure deals to create flexibility? Every move from here on out has to be about maximizing this core while it's still in its prime, because windows in the NFL close fast, and you don't want to look back in 3 years wondering how you let elite talent slip through your fingers without a real shot at the Super Bowl. And let's be honest, the pressure in Dallas is different. You know, when you play for the star, it's championship or bust, and CeeDee knows that, Dak knows that, the entire locker room feels it, and sometimes that weight crushes teams, but sometimes it forges them into something dangerous. And the vibe I got from this interview was not a team that's defeated, it was a team that's irritated, motivated, and ready to respond. So as we sit here in the offseason dissecting every quote, every rumor, every potential roster move, remember this: your best player on offense just publicly doubled down on belief in his quarterback, praised potential weapons, acknowledged elite competition, and made it crystal clear the only acceptable outcome next year is winning. Not entertaining, not flashy, just winning. That's the mindset you build around. That's the foundation of a serious contender. Now, the front office has to match that energy with smart, aggressive decisions that balance cap health with urgency, because the NFC is not waiting around, and neither are we. So I want to hear from you. Would you go all in on adding another big-name receiver, or do you build through the draft and trust internal growth? Do you believe Dak and CeeDee together are enough to carry this team deep, or is one more piece the missing ingredient? Drop your take in the comments, because this debate is just getting started, and if you're riding with the Cowboys through every twist and turn, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a single update, because something tells me this offseason is about to get very interesting, and when it does, we'll be right here breaking it all down.